Hello, scholars. Welcome to today's writing lesson. It is our first writing lesson in this new packet that you brought home, probably around the middle of January. Hopefully, you have that still. If not, you could just find some other lined paper that you could use, but hopefully, you have this with the dashed lines, which will help you with formation. Now, first things first, you could pull this part off so you can set it to the side and look at it while we're working. I often find that having this model to refer to helps. And then turn your page so it looks like this. Take a moment to put your name at the top. Maybe you want to try it in cursive. That's up to you. Write your name on it. All right. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see my lines a little more clearly and see my formations. So I want to get nice and close. So what we're doing, scholars, in this packet, we're going to each lesson work on a few letters that maybe were a little troublesome when we were learning the letters, and a few words, maybe a couple other things like that. So the first one we're going to look at is a J. Now, the letter J itself in cursive was not all that difficult for everyone, but we're practicing the loop at the end of it, and you'll see why in just a minute. So to make a lowercase j, I want you to just watch right now. So pencils are down for a moment. You start at the baseline, up to the middle dotted line, drop below the baseline, and you make your loop that crosses at the baseline. Right? See how I crossed at the baseline for my kick out tail? And then dot my J. Watch me do one more. Starting at the baseline, slant to the middle line, drop below the baseline, loop, cross at the baseline for the kick out tail, dot my J. Now, let's go ahead, pencils up, let's try one together. Starting at the baseline, slanting to the middle line, drop below the baseline, loop, cross at the baseline, kick out tail. And put a dot on that J. Let's try one more together. Ready? Starting at the baseline, slant up to the middle dotted line, drop below the baseline, loop, cross at the baseline for the kick out tail, dot your J. So, scholars, I want you to pause right now, and I want you to write at least 6 more J's right here. How many more? 6. Right? You can do more than 6 if you like, but we should see at least 6 J's on that line. Go ahead. All right, now that you're back from doing that, hopefully your J's look good. And here's where that connection comes in on that loop. So scholars, I'm going to skip a line just to kind of help keep us organized, right? Otherwise those lines are easily mixed together. The next letter we're going to work on is G. Now, you might be thinking, G, Mr. Long, we didn't have trouble with that letter. And you're right, scholars. G also was not a super tricky one, but there's a connection that we're going to soon be making. Now, the G has that same loop as the J. So we're going to practice some G's. So for a moment, set your pencil down. I want you to watch me form first. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close, drop below, loop, crossing up the baseline for the kick out tail. Oh, and I forgot to skip a line. I said I was going to skip a line. So I'm just going to quickly write that one down here. If you didn't skip, right, well, you were just watching me, so you shouldn't have written one there anyway. Ha ha. Ah, if you didn't leave your pencil down, you might have written on the wrong line like I did. I was testing you. Hmm. Watch me do one more of those. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around to close it, drop below the baseline, loop, crossing at the baseline for the kick out tail. Right. Pencils can come up. Let's try one together. Check the slant of your paper. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close, drop, loop, cross at the baseline for the kick out tail. Nice. Let's try one more of those together. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close that G, drop below the baseline for the loop, crossing at the baseline, kick out tail. All right. G, you are doing a great job. Scholars, I want you to write at least 6 J's on this line. Sorry, G's on this line. Right? Pause right now. Write a few more G's so you have at least 6 of them. It's not a 5G network. This is a 6G network. All right, now that you have 6 J's or more, 6 G's or more, here's that connection. Our next letter is Q. And scholars, when we worked on the G and Q page, we had a lot of trouble with the loop on the Q. That's actually very common. Even if we were in the building doing on-site learning together in the building, this would be a common mistake. So set your pencils down for a moment. We're writing the Q. I want you to just watch me first. See if you can catch where the mistake is happening. So we start at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close the Q, drop below the baseline, backward loop to the baseline, kick out tail. All right, did you see it? So the loop goes this way instead of this way. So instead of like around the clock, it goes counterclockwise. Watch me do one more. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close, drop below the baseline, backward loop to the baseline, kick out tail. So scholars, up and over, when you swing back around, ooh, I didn't swing very well on that one. Drop below, I loop it backward to the baseline and then kick out the tail. All right, let's try one together. Pencils are up. Starting at the baseline, up and over, swing back around, close it, drop below the baseline, backward loop to the baseline, kick out tail. All right, so scholars, I want you to pause right now and write at least 6 of those. Take your time. Be careful on that loop. Right? It should not look just like a G. If you did that, you might want to look at it and go, oh, gee, I made my cues wrong. And then fix them. All right. Now that you have 6 Qs, along with your at least 6 Gs and Js, we are ready for one more letter that we're going to practice. This letter was actually our newest letter to practice. Our most recent one to learn, and it was cursive F. And we had the same problem as we had with the Q. Set your pencil down. I'll show you what I mean. So to make the cursive F, we start at the baseline, loop up to the top line, slant up to the top line, loop, drop below the baseline, and then scholars, it's the same backward loop as the Q, and then a kick out tail. Many of you made that loop like a G, right? Not what we're doing. So, F. Watch me do another one, please. Starting at the baseline, slanting to the top line, loop, drop below the baseline, backward loop to the baseline, kick out tail. Ready to pick up your pencil and try one with me? All right, here we go. Pencils are up. Check that slant of your paper again. Say it with me, starting at the baseline, slanting to the top line, loop, drop below the baseline, backward loop, kick out tail. Look at it. Did you make the tail backward? Did you loop this way? I sure hope so. All right. Ready? Let's try one more. Starting at this baseline. Say it with me. Starting at the baseline. Slanting to the top line. Loop. Drop below the baseline. Backward loop to baseline. Kick out tail. All right, I bet you already guessed, scholars. I want you to write at least 6 F's. All right. Now, before I talk to you about these last lines right here, I'm going to back this up for a moment and talk to you about how to get your grade on this. So, scholars, this is going to be worth 2 points. Right? So, you're going to get a point for practicing each of these letters 6 times. Then you're going to get the other point for practicing the words that I'm going to tell you in a moment right down here. But you have to write each of those words at least 2 times. More would be even better because scholars, look at how long these lines are. You've got plenty of space to do some practice, right? Practice is how we gain mastery at something. So, your second point comes from writing these words at least 2 times each. The first word is the word jug. You're going to write the word jug. You're going to write the word fig. You're going to write the word fudge. Yummy. And you can go back in the video, scholars, right? Just back up a little bit and watch my formations for these, right? If you need to review them. And the last one is going to have a Q and a G in it. So you want to be very careful that you're forming the Q correctly. Backward loop. And then the G, right? Regular clockwise loop. But we're writing the word quagmire. That's a good word. Do you know what a quagmire is? You'll have to find out. So remember, each of those words at least 2 times. Those letters at least 6 times. And then submit a photo of this page. That's how your assignment for this week's cursive is going to be graded. Thanks for joining me, scholars. Keep up the great practice.